Welcome to our session on NetScout Omnis Security in Action. My name is Mark Doring, Director of Technical Marketing for Security Solutions. And this presentation is going to cover a wide array of solutions to demonstrate the broad capabilities of our Omnis Security. And by the time we're done, you will have seen in action how they've all worked together with one cause, to be able to quickly and effectively deal with an intrusion that has been detected and with a set of systems not only to defend your organization, but to improve the defense capabilities as well. Please note, we will not be responding to questions during this session. We will be hosting a live Q&A session immediately following in a separate collaboration room. Please use the link in the overview tab at the bottom of your screen to enter the Q&A session. You're welcome to post a question in this session's Q&A chat, and we will have someone get back to you just as soon as possible. Submitted questions will be shared with the account teams for subsequent follow-up. Here's our agenda for this session, starting with an introduction to security, where we will cover some aspects of the industry and capabilities needed to be successful and have a robust security plan. With most organizations today being forced to shift to meet their users' applications, data, and where they live, the traditional or classic enterprise security is really no longer valid. Having new trust models, visibility everywhere, controls that allow for the constantly changing and complex perimeter and access boundaries that are being driven by digital transformation and global threats. Then we'll cover our topic in the news, Introduction to NetScout Omnis Security, and give some color and meaning of Omnis and how NetScout is delivering a platform to bring capabilities to cybersecurity and an intrinsic value proposition to organizations. Omnis has a big tool belt to show, so let's take a look at it now. This will all be covered in our solutions that encompass the Omnis Advanced Threat Analytics and Response in action. And we'll be demonstrating through a scenario-based use case on an actual security incident and response on an enterprise network. We will bring this down into a few sections, and through these, we will use our solutions to complete our incident response scenario. In our use case, we'll begin with a dive into our first solution, and that is Omnis Intrusion Detection, or IDS. Whether you're working in governance and compliance mandates or need to provide security at scale without impact on the network traffic, the network-based intrusion detection system is the workhorse of cybersecurity. Getting started here, our SecOps team Tier 1 analyst is looking for that needle in the haystack related to a specific security event that we're going to use in our demonstration. Then we'll take another step in our use case with Omnis IDS in the security ecosystem with a third-party SIEM. In this particular part of our incident, we'll introduce you to our NetScout Omnis Security app for Splunk in utilizing our export of event data to security information and event management platform for our further investigation and reporting of the security event. Next, we will begin this step with our third-party SIEM and then use it to launch into Omnis Cyber Investigator, where we will begin our host investigation and drill down to the hosts involved. And then we'll drill down even further to the specific packets, followed by exporting our findings to have a dynamic malware analysis done by an organization in the security ecosystem. We will finish off our use case by showing you how to block traffic by covering Omnis Security Mitigation with a third-party next-generation firewall and our Arbor Edge defense at the perimeter of our network. And then we'll wrap this all up into some closing remarks and conclusions. We're going to assume that you're familiar with NetScout and its existing InfiniStream NG or ISNG, vStream, and Ingenious products, and that our objectives are going to be showing the advantages of using Omnis Security and by showing benefits of our rich data export to the security ecosystem and using our new Omnis Security app for Splunk, as well as showing cyber threat detection, investigation, reporting, and mitigation with Omnis Cyber Investigator. Then show how results of this investigation can influence remediation, such as blocking at the perimeter with firewalls and Arbor Edge Defense, or AED. Also, it's always with an eye on risks and dealing with daily dynamics like, what are my risks, both short and long term? and how to measure and manage those risks, to applying the controls to mitigate or protect your organization and how you must be able to see the problems as they occur. And since we're talking about risks to our own network and organization, it's prudent to make sure that we understand the scale and dynamics of the security trends and our network. As long as we are adopting security stack to deliver better visibility and controls. Lastly, we know that it's not if, but when the events happen, and if we are truly prepared to address those events rapidly, succinctly, and with repeatable processes. Maturity modeling is a life cycle and methodology for evaluating your cybersecurity maturity and identifying next steps in your organization's security journey. As organizations reach further into their security maturity and defenses, many have or are adopting a form of detection maturity model that allows building upon key areas. With each area progressively becoming stronger, the level of protection that they provide, now there are many models that we can choose, like CMM, CMMC, and C2M2, as well as there are frameworks like NIST, DFARS, and FAIR, all providing the ability to evaluate your defenses and capabilities, like the people, processes, technologies, and tools. As your security becomes more prepared for business continuity, even in the middle of an incident, while others are governed by some form of compliance, risk, or governance, which requires controls and measurements towards a maturity model. And typically the same tools that NetOps uses to ensure that those internal company configuration standards are enforced can also be used by SecOps teams to satisfy PCI DSS requirement 11, as well as many others. In order for us to dive into our Omnis Security discussion, we need to break down the security systems into phases or components, having 3 key phases handling cybersecurity, which will bring strength to our complete solution. Collection is the gathering and parsing of relevant network data, and it's often performed by a combination of both hardware and software. Detection. This is the process of finding anomalies in the collected data that may represent a potential intrusion, anomaly, or threat. Detection is most often done by software, but can also be done by humans to a lesser extent. And analysis. This is the review and investigation of alert data generated during the detection, and analysis is typically and most effectively done by humans. Is it really possible to empower your security systems to do more, cost less, and keep up with the constantly changing tactics, techniques, and attacks, the threat landscape, larger data sets, and more skilled attackers? Well, yes. It takes many technologies and solutions to form a robust defense-in-depth cybersecurity solution for organizations to build upon for visibility and collection of telemetry and for effective threat detection, analysis, hunting, reporting, and response. And Omnis Advanced Threat Analytics and Response delivers. Omnis scales from the modest installations to some of the largest and most complex compute environments. It offers a scope from true application-level contextual visibility in network packets with any infrastructure, and consistency with a common and detailed data and views across all assets to minimize risks and improve cyber maturity. Despite the number of security solutions on the market, companies continue to get compromised or owned. And that is because security is still too difficult and complexity becomes the actual threat. Organizations need security that is simple to use, comprehensive in scale, and offers scale, scope, and consistency. With that in mind, here is NetScout's Omnis Security as it fits into the cybersecurity lifecycle. First off, for the Omnis Advanced Threat Analytics and Response introduction is ISNG, InfiniStream NG, and vStream. Network instrumentation based upon 30 years of core competency of NetScout. No one in the industry can offer such a proven, highly scalable, and cost-effective platform for line rate packet acquisition, classification, and storage. It enables a broad and deep visibility across an organization's entire digital infrastructure, the fundamental requirements for effective defense in depth, and advanced threat detection, analytics, and response. Our newest addition is Omnis Intrusion Detection System, or IDS. The threat detection engine is based upon open source integration with Suricata, based upon rules and signatures along with third-party contextual threat intelligence, and deployed inside of your network. Next is our Omnis Cyber Investigator, threat detection based upon ISNG metadata and packet analysis, baseline anomalies and threat intelligence from NetScout Atlas or third parties deployed inside of the network. And Arbor Edge Defense, the threat detection based upon Arbor technology and threat intelligence from NetScout Atlas or third parties deployed on the network perimeter, inside the edge routing and outside the firewall. We have been notified that there is an incident that has popped up in our Security Operations Center, and the user has complained that his system is running slow or sluggish, but has made no mention of any recent activities that might have led to a security incident. On the front lines, it's all about finding the needle in the haystack. And as our Tier 1 analyst accesses our new Omnis Intrusion Detection System to begin the search for the threat, let's take a look at our IDS Manager user's interface. Our IDS Manager Explorer page has three main areas. Beginning at the top section, we see the timeline of both bytes and events for a given period of time. This will allow quick access for the analyst to get to the specific reported events. The filter expression and attribute selector window. This will add manual or automated filter expressions to be introduced easily for quick access to our events and our threats. And our total event counter display for the given period of time and our time period selector window for setting time and date criteria for an easy access and use selector. And we have a system health status icon that depicts our total system health. The second section is all about customizing your dashboard for visualization and attribute selection using any number of widgets available. You can add, edit, or delete whatever widgets you need to get to the data needed quickly. At the bottom section is where the list of events is in chronological order for the given time period. There are different views and various column header attributes to add or modify to the needed viewing and quick access. So going back to the top of our screen, let's look at the total number of events in the event counter. It shows almost 200,000 events in our current display. And our time window is set for the last hour. That's way too much information to sort through, so let's change the view. Now you can see that we have set a filter expression for our known IP address of our host that came with the security event. And we can also see that we have reduced the timeline down to just a couple of minutes in time, which ultimately reduced the total events down to around 300 events. This is much more manageable. So what did we do? We entered in a filter attribute of the IP address. This updated all the displayed events down to only events related to the specific IP address. Then we introduced or reduced the time period to minutes. And now we have a smaller data set to work with. And now if we go down to the bottom section of our screen in the Explorer page, we can see that we now have our IP host and all the various events in sequential order for the given set of threats and exploits that all added up to some nefarious activities in our network that we need to capture and update in our trouble ticket. So let's wrap this up for our Tier 2 analyst to go work for and confirm. Here is the exported list of events from the previous Explorer screen that we will be adding to our ticket and provided to our Tier 2. We also noticed that one of the events looks to be malware that has recently been seen in the wild and is called Zeus. And as cybersecurity incidents have been dominating the headlines in recent years, many organizations think that they have all that it takes to guard themselves against a threat, just to be targeted when they least expect it. The recent trend in distributed workforce has only aggravated the situation, which most organizations now are more vulnerable to cyber attacks than ever before. Given the far-reaching impact of security incidents, now is the time for organizations to review their cybersecurity incident response plan and update it to avoid security incidents from happening to their organizations and being able to respond effectively to those that can't be avoided. And now our Tier 2 analyst has been given the new list of events and is working from their SIM, confirming the threat list and using the new Omnis Security app for Splunk to dig into the events and threats. This section will show our event data exported in integration with the security ecosystem. Starting in our new Omnis Security app for Splunk, and in the Omnis IDS dashboard, we can see that we have all the exported data from our Omnis IDS systems, as well as other widgets to give a lens on the security traffic and trends, offering the analyst with a quick look at the current security posture of our organization. And further down, we have the alert signatures list in a widget for the analyst to quickly find the reported event being worked on. By selecting the initial malware found from the event list, we will be able to expound on it directly and verify the event details. Now we're looking at the list of events from our alert signatures. We can see that we have our internal host as well as our external host IP for reference and verification. By using the event action selector, we can choose to look up our event and launch our Omnis IDS Manager application directly from our Splunk app. With the details of our event list from Splunk, we now have a pre-populated list of events passed from our SIM that will take us close to our needed event list details. And by scrolling down to the event list at the bottom and opening up the event list details from the event list, we can now see the associated threat intelligence as the emerging threat signature for this event, along with the URL that contains the binary file that was downloaded by our internal hosts. We now have confirmed that we have a malicious binary download and can update our ticket for the Tier 3 investigation. Here is our list of events with the confirmed downloaded binary file that is most likely malware. And given the pace and scale of security incidents today, inadequate planning or improper handling can make a bad situation even worse. So let's wrap up our ticket and hand to Tier 3 for a deeper look. Our Tier 3 analyst is working from their SIM as well, using the Omnis Security app for Splunk and the Cyber Investigator applet. We will dig into one of the many security events and drill down to a host investigation. Then we'll save a PCAP of the packet trace and export and submit the binary to the security ecosystem for a dynamic malware analysis. From within the SIM, we can see our specific malicious host and the event in the event table. And by selecting the specific event, we can open up Cyber Investigator in a host investigation window with the specific event in contrast. This shows that we have a collaboration between systems by having our event data exported to the SIM, and that our staff can operate directly from their familiar screens and workflows. Now we have launched into our Cyber Investigator screen with the two hosts and the selected cyber threat event. By selecting to expand the view to all hosts communicating with our internal hosts, we can see that our possible containment field needs to be expanded and confirmed as part of our threat investigation and our use case. And we now will drill down to the specific traffic for this event and look at the packet decodes to see exactly what has occurred. Here we have the specific packet decodes, and it confirms the same files/1.bin file that has been downloaded by our internal host. So let's save a PCAP of this session for our forensics team and have them extract the malware binary file and submit it to the security ecosystem for a dynamic malware analysis. Here is our result from the malware analysis. You can see that the result is that it has confirmed malware, and that about half of the security community is detecting it and about half is not. Now that we've confirmed our malware and this event, we will need to sort out the rest of the events on the list, and we can then proceed with updating our security policy with some perimeter controls. The response to our confirmed malware events should include updating our security policy with perimeter controls from our cyber investigator. We will put a blocking mechanism in place with various blocking devices. By selecting the threat remediation configuration screen, we can configure the devices to be used in blocking traffic from our cyber investigator's findings and events. These devices in our network are our stateful firewalls and our stateless AEDs. By selecting our traffic from the previously seen host investigation screen, we now have the ability to mitigate this traffic from our blocking hosts pop-up. By selecting our blocking hosts, we now have any or all of our devices able to mitigate this malicious traffic quickly and precisely. This can be any of our previously configured firewalls or AED devices. Once we have performed our blocking operation command, we can then go to the blocked elements screen to see what is actively being blocked for our reference and confirmation. And here we can see our external host or threat now has a blocking element in place, protecting our organization from any additional malicious activity from the new bad actors in the internet. As well, we can also use our payload information from the packet decodes and the binary download example, and take that information to be used in our security policy changes. For further containment, just in case the same or similar bad actor pops up from another internal or external source. By using the AED and the payload regular expression screen, implementing our information from the packet decodes previously found can configure our stateless device that sits outside of our firewall to offload those valuable resources. Now you can see that our AED is acting as our blocking device outside the firewall and offloading those valuable resources from the edge firewall by blocking the traffic based on the payload. This should increase the headroom on the firewall and assist with our security perimeter controls. It's time to replace your homegrown open source-based deployments with a purpose-built, off-the-shelf solution that comes fully integrated, ready to go with rapid deployments and seamless integration into many of your existing security tools and workloads. In our infrastructure, we deployed Omnis Security in a typical enterprise network with on-premise and cloud infrastructure as seen here. We have simplified the image to include places in the network or pins for visibility of each of the modules or layers of our given infrastructure. Our first use case solution was all about Omnis Intrusion Detection, or IDS. In our deployment, we were asked or tasked with finding that needle in the haystack. And as you can see here, the list of devices deployed in our Omnis IDS solution deployment, like the IDS sensor appliances and the vStream virtual sensors deployed in our cloud environments, as well as in our leaf layers, to keep our security visibility across our entire network infrastructure, as well as the Omnis IDS manager, where all of the event data is sent for storage, access, and presenting to our security analysts. And finally, providing that exported event data to the security ecosystem. Next, we utilized our Omnis Cyber Investigator to look at our hosts with all the other communications. You can see that we utilize both our InfiniStream NG or ISNG appliances, as well as our vStream virtual appliances in the cloud and in our leaf layer. This provided our analysts with the ability to perform a host investigation and look at the wider list of hosts that were involved in our network traffic. And then our analyst was able to drill down to the packets, then saving the PCAP for a forensic team and submitting our binary to the security ecosystem for analysis. As part of our perimeter defenses, we deployed the AED, our stateless inspection device, outside the perimeter firewalls to offload those valuable resources. By offering the border protection, your firewalls will have more headroom and your mitigation controls are stronger by having a defense in-depth strategy. Our AED is acting as our last line of defense in this design. We're now going to close out our session, and I want to leave you with these thoughts. Is your security maturity on a good path or progression? Are your current perimeter controls good? Are all your security tools and systems really good? Well, maybe it's time to realize that sometimes good might not be good enough. So if your organization knows that it's time to stand your ground and invest in tomorrow's security, then come and join NetScout and become a guardian of your connected world. Thank you for attending and enjoy the rest of your Engage experience.